Hello, guys. My name is Anthony. Welcome to the match reaction of game week 3 of the EPL League Barclays Premiership. We saw the game between Manchester United against Liverpool, and Manchester United were battered. I'm not here alone. Like I said before, my name is Anthony, and here with me is Daniel, making his featuring for the second time on the show. Daniel, what's up?
Yeah, I'm very well. Yeah, nice to be here. Happy to be here.
Yeah, good to have you. And also we have, the boss himself. I can't remember all the accolades. Apparently, I had all the accolades written that I was going to use to introduce you into the show. Okay, what's up? How you doing?
Very well, thank you. It's a pleasure to be on FootyWit podcast again. It's been a while, and good to have the band back together. And it's another great season.
Yes, another great season. Unfortunately, at this time while we're recording for now, the three of us are Arsenal fans. So we're expecting Margaret to join. I hope she'll be able to join because after that battering, after what we saw a few minutes ago, Liverpool doing Manchester United dirty at Old Trafford. I don't know if we'll just start with that. Also, we saw what happened yesterday. Arsenal dropping points and Manchester City picking up 3 points at the London Stadium. 9 points, 3 wins out of 3 games. And we saw what Liverpool just did not too long ago. 3 wins out of 3 games, scoring 7 goals, not conceding. Right now, they're the only team that have not conceded yet in the EPL. So just to start, recency bias here, Manchester United, Liverpool. Let me start with Daniel. What's your take on that game?
Yeah, to be honest, it was a very interesting game. I loved what I saw actually. I mean, the details from Arne for Liverpool, their style of play. I mean, to have a style of play in 3 games, evidence from the Ipswich match, the second game as well against Brentford, and now the game against Man United. You could see how they play fast football, they're attacking. I mean, it's amazing. But Man United, I really don't know how to describe that performance from them. It was a very bad one. Not just Casemiro, Rashford, Garnacho, the manager as well. Their centre backs, Delete, and the other players was just a woeful performance. We are seeing the same patterns from last season, and it's not a good look at the moment.
Not a good look at the moment, really. Okay, your take.
I think first of all, I need to give kudos to the hierarchy at Liverpool for selecting a good coach in Anslot. I'll be very honest, I was skeptical about his appointment. I mean, I didn't know anything about him. I did not know of his existence till Liverpool hired him. I mean, I saw what he did at Feyenoord. He had just had less than 3 years on the job. Yes, Feyenoord did look okay, but I mean, without due respect, when you're comparing the Dutch league to the top 5 leagues, they are nothing close to where they are. But I guess at the end of the day, a good coach is a good coach, and Slot has shown that so far. Yes, he did have a solid foundation to continue from, but we've seen in time past where I mean, some coaches don't know how to should I say build up from a solid foundation. We saw that with David Moyes in the past. We saw that with Unai Emery in the past. And I could go on and on, but I think what I love the most about this Liverpool side now is that they are a bit more compact defensively, right? And I think that's something that is suffered under Klopp for the last 2 seasons. I think the last 2 seasons under Klopp, Liverpool just wanted to be that team that will always outscore you. And what I've noticed this season is that they are a bit more compact. I think Konate as well has stepped up in the absence of Gerald Quansah, who had been benching him for the last 2 seasons or so. So it's a good Liverpool team. I like what Ancelotti is doing. I mean, some players have been reinvented under him. One person in particular who caused a lot of havoc for Man United today was Ryan Gravenberch. I think his break-up play and creating chances was good enough. I think Liverpool fans are starting to see the best of Dominic Szoboszlai as well. And of course, you have the Egyptian Emperor Mohamed Salah doing, or rather, causing always been a havoc to Manchester United. He has more goals at Old Trafford than Anthony, and I think that says a lot.
Yeah.
So, that says a lot. But then talking about United, You know what? Let me be honest here. I'm an Arsenal fan, so I'm quite happy with the result. I think that Eric Ten Hag is one of the most deluded human beings in the world. So deluded and confident at the same time, and but I think what fuels his delusion is that over the last 2 seasons, somehow, some way, he's been able to win trophies. But nevertheless, I think that Man United is still struggling to have an identity, and I think he made a mistake during the transfer window, going for someone like Joshua Zexi. I think he should have gone for a more out and out striker, in my own opinion. Obviously, the injury to Rasmus Højlund was not something that was foreseen, but I think he could have done better in terms of recruiting a striker. Without due respect to Zexi, he said it himself. He's not a number 9. He's not a false 9. He's not an assistant striker. He doesn't even know what he is. So right now, some fans are terming him the 5.9 average striker. So it's not looking good in my own opinion. I think what United always fail to do, or what they fail to do this season, is not having a finisher. Not having a focal point of attack is a problem for them. And then, Casemiro, I think it's time for him to pack his bags. He can make cool money in Saudi, honestly. I think the legs are gone.
True.
I do admire the fact that he feels like he's still got a lot to prove, in terms of offering his experience and whatnot. But I think he's just off it, and might just be time to ship him off. Big statement by ETH by taking him off during halftime. I think it was the right call, nevertheless. But you never know with Man United. It's always a topsy-turvy season for them. They're never consistent. So let's see what United have to offer us come the resumption from the international break.
Yeah, but let's still stick with the manager, and I would like to stick with Arne Slot. I don't know, I mother his name at times. Let's just stick Slot. A lot will argue that, or a lot will say that there is no difference in the squad that Klopp left over. It's still the bunch that Klopp left over, and he's not really doing anything new. It's still the same thing. I had a comment in the first game against Ipswich that when it was an analysis, with these ESPN guys, I don't know how, I can't really remember. Is it ESPN or Sky Sports, where they said that looking at that game, the first half, Liverpool were terrible because they were trying to play Slot's way. But second half, the players took responsibility upon themselves and say, let's do it our way. And they went back to the Klopp style and they got the result. We saw much of that also in the second game where they played at home against Brentford. And we also saw the Klopp style today, in my own personal opinion. That was what I saw. I didn't see any difference in what Klopp did last season. I think the only difference here is they were able to finish their dinner as compared to last season when Liverpool were creating chances upon chances. We saw last season at Old Trafford, they should have been 4-0 up in the first half, but they were not converting the chances. I think the only difference we can see right now with this slot administration or Slot being the manager is them finishing their dinner. Daniel, would you say it's a manager bounce? Because Okwe said it's good to see that Manchester United lost, but also look at Liverpool. Liverpool was threatening. Beginning of the season, everybody said Man City, Arsenal. This Liverpool look like a team that would contend for this title. So is it a manager bounce thing, or do you see Liverpool going all the way till the end of the season and contending this title against Man City and Arsenal?
First off, I want to remind us of Ange Postecoglou, because these guys started as well until they collapsed, get a few injuries and it can go downhill. So I don't want to go ahead of myself yet and say they are going to challenge, because it's still a long way to go. I mean, we have a lot of games, 35 more games to go, in the league, and for us, Champions League as well is in it. So I would say they would finish in the top 4, definitely, without their playing, the kind of characters they have in the dressing room. Van Dijk, Salah, those players that have done it, they've been there, but I will be able to answer the question properly in January when we see the numbers, we see how they are performing, I'll finalize squads. But for now, I will lean towards new manager bounce. But with the bounce, the style of play, the manager seems to know what he's doing. It's not just vibes like some other, United and the likes. But it's good days ahead for Liverpool, but it's too early to say they are going to challenge or something like that. Yeah.
Big man TJ joining us. What's up? How you doing? Okay, by the way, you heard what Daniel said. Do you think it's not a manager bounce-ish, or it's just a manager bounce-ish? Because Paul Scholes made a very big statement right after the press analysis after the game that he sees Liverpool contending for the title, and that's a big statement. That's looking at the sample size of the 3 games that have been played. It tips Liverpool contending for the title. Do you agree?
No, I don't agree with Scholesy. With all due respect to Scholes, he was a great player, but I mean, as an analyst, he's not up there, in my own opinion. Um, in terms of what I see from Anslot, I think that I think that he's a different manager. He's got his own style. What exactly he likes is actually a proper 4-3-3. But he came into this Liverpool team and he sees that they are quite fragile at the back. And I think the first thing that made me give him a bit of respect was the fact that he could also notice that Konate is someone who would tend to switch off sometimes. And the same reason for why Klopp was benching Konate and starting Kwanzaa, for me, seems to be the same reason why at the beginning of the season it was Kwanzaa starting ahead of Konate. Kwanzaa, the first game against Ipswich, didn't have a great game. He was losing his duels, and I think that's because he was up against a combative striker in Liam Delap. And for me, the major difference that I see in comparison in terms of Slot's administration and Klopp is the fact that building up for Liverpool under Slot, they are now building up with a double pivot. And then they are not also inverting. The midfielders, rather the fullbacks, are not inverting. If you remember last season, the fullbacks were inverting, and the build-up was more with one person in the middle of the park. Either it was Alexander Arnold, if he's with the ball, then every other midfielder leaves him and they push up. And if it's Alexis McAllister in the hole, every other person pushes up, or if it's Endo, every other person pushes up. So I think what has really helped them to be a bit more defensively okay, I'm not going to say that they are sound defensively right now, is the fact that number one, there's competition between Konate and Kwanzaa, and I think both of them have stepped up. Number two is the fact that they're building up with a double pivot. So having both Gravenberch, who is trying to reinvent his career at Anfield, and Alexis McAllister, who is a very good mix of a 6 and an 8. For me, it makes a lot of sense for them. And giving that license to Dominic Soboslai, for me, has been a major impact, has been a major thing for me under Anslot. I think those are the key differences. So I wouldn't say it's manager bounce. I would say that Anslot did his homework, and he doesn't want to fall victim to the same thing that Klopp fell victim to over the last 2 seasons. Are they going to challenge for the title? I can't say. I do not think so, because they're going to have a run of games. So the question is, how well can he balance the squad? Liverpool have good players going forward that can help them when they want to rotate the team. But in terms of defense, in terms of midfield, I think they're quite light there in terms of quality. When you take a look at the bench, you are going to be taking a look at people like Wataru Endo, Harvey Elliott. You have more of the youngsters, Conor Bradley. So I think when those run of games come, I think Liverpool will struggle. Top 4 finish, I don't know. I really don't know. But at least a top 6 finish for Liverpool, for me, will be it for now.
Paul Scholes disagrees with you, because hearing his analysis after the game, it tips Liverpool to contend. And for me, as an Arsenal fan, I'm a bit worried, because it seems we're seeing a rejigged Liverpool team, a team that wants to make a statement, a team that wants to send out a signal to the entire footballing world to say, yes, while Klopp was here, we couldn't have achieved XYZ with Klopp. For the past 2 seasons, we could have fallen out in terms of being tagged as EPL contenders. But with this new manager, he has decided to keep it cool, has decided to keep it simple. He didn't want to reinvent the wheel, or he has not decided to reinvent the wheel yet, potentially, because we don't know what might happen in the next few weeks. Looking at what we saw in the first game, the players not wanting to go along his style and decided to go the club style. that will also come because he would have to take his time. You know, the EPL analysis will start coming out saying it's still Klopp's philosophy. All he's just doing is just a little tweak here or there, and we don't know what that could cause to the team in their aspirations for the season. But looking at these 3 games, Liverpool have sent out a message. Like I said earlier, where they failed last season on the club, they've worked on those areas. They are not missing chances. They converted those chances, and that was what killed the game. And I think a team with such intent and with such purpose can hurt anything, can really, really hurt anything. But let's talk about Manchester United. Big up Chimamaka, big up TJ for joining us. How you guys doing? You're muted.
Yeah, I'm good. It's good to be here. Good to be back. Hello, guys.
TJ seems frozen. Margaret came in not too long ago, and I don't know, network issues. She went out the last episode. Margaret and Chimamaka were really good getting the seat, and I would have loved that to happen. Margaret, please come back because it's time for you to defend Manchester United. And Chimamaka had his own point of view. He had his own narrative of the point he was trying to make, and everything Chimamaka said is what happened today. Last episode while we're here. So it's left for Margaret to come and defend Manchester United. But while we wait for Margaret, Chimamaka, what's your thoughts on today's game? Looking at Manchester United, Liverpool. Your thoughts on Manchester United?
Okwe has actually said a lot in that regard, and I think I'm on the same page with him. Even if Arne Slot is still he still has the Jurgen Klopp boys. The boys are delivering. They are playing. I don't know if I will say they are still playing the club pattern or they are playing his own pattern. But the beautiful thing of both managers is the fact that this guy has come to replace Klopp, and in the last 3 games, he has not just won 3 games on the bounce, he has had 3 clean sheets. So he's talking about something. I also believe that he has been able to identify the fact that they usually used to have a sloppy defense in the pairing of Konate and Van Dijk. So because of that, he has been able to also bring about a balance. I feel he's still trying to understand the strength of his players. Yes, up front they are doing numbers. In the attack, they are doing numbers, and it's the job of every manager and every fan to see their strikers doing good. But I still believe that as the season runs by, as the season goes on, we would eventually see some sloppiness in the Liverpool we saw last season. Because yes, they've done 3 games on the bounce. At some point, they tend to falter. They tend to start dwindling and shaky, being that balance. And the problem actually is always going to be in the defense, because that has been their problem in the past 2 seasons. So I still want to believe that Slot still has some time to get his own team with these guys. He can get his own team. Eventually, he will come out kicking very good. But yeah, it's good to have them doing 3 games on the bounce with 3 clean sheets. It's been a long time it has happened in the Premier League, so it's a good one for me.
And also, it sets a record. I think a record that was set 1936. The first manager coming into Manchester United, going to Old Trafford, and beating Manchester United at Old Trafford, being his first time as a manager to coach anything there. Can't remember the name of the other person, but there was something that came out yesterday about ETH talking about him being the most successful manager after Man City, after Pep. And I thought I was going to see that being backed up today, but unfortunately, see, numbers make sense in real context. We need to give him his props. He says it, and that is the way it is. After Man City, looking at the past 2 seasons, which other team has won enough number of trophies? So let's agree with him on that stead. He's won the FA Cup, he's won the Charity Shield, and he's won Is it the Carabao Cup? Did he win the Carabao Cup?
Yeah, the Carabao
Yeah,
Cup, yeah.
it's the Carabao Cup, not the
Carabao Cup.
charity.
Yep. So he said he has won 3. But when it comes to Arsenal, the Charity Shield is not recognized. But this is ETH backing himself up, saying after Pep, he has won 3 trophies. And Pep won the EPL, won the EPL back to back, 2 seasons straight. That's from 2 seasons, last season and 2 seasons ago. And also he won the Champions League, he won 3 trophies, and he won Charity Shield this season. So Pep has won 4 titles plus the World Club Cup. That's 5. And ETH has won 3 titles, going by what ETH said yesterday or day before yesterday. So I was expecting him to back it up. But now let's look at Manchester United. Previous episode, I brought out the Rashford watch. I call it the Rashford watch. I said it that there's something wrong with that brother. He's not doing what he's supposed to do. And we saw in the game today, ETH decided not to sub him off, played him for entire 90 minutes. The number of take-ons, I couldn't see Rashford taking on any of the Liverpool, which is Alexander-Arnold or the guy that subbed Alexander-Arnold. I didn't see any take-on. I didn't see any pass into the final third. I didn't see any danger, anything that Rashford created. So now, this is ETH. Did he get everything wrong today? Let me start with Daniel. Daniel, please chime in.
Yeah, ETH, I think really that midfield combination, first of all, the Casemiro, I could understand that, Ugarte is not registered yet, to play. But I think the combination, Rashford as well, starting that game, I understand the Rashford hype, but taking off Garnacho, for me, was the height of it. Garnacho should not go up. Rashford should have gone off, and maybe Garnacho on the left, then Ahmad on the right. When Ahmad came in, you could see. And again, dropping Maguire, to me, did not make any sense. Because I don't know why he had a good game against Brighton, a good game against Fulham. I could agree that the goal against United for Brighton, the cross, had a bit to do with him, but he was the best defender in that game for United. And if you see the first goal where Diaz scored, where all the defenders, where the elite as well went with the ball, that shouldn't happen, I believe if Maguire was on the pitch for that, you have given a bit of leadership and look. I don't know if you watched the match on Sky Sports, but when they were doing the analysis, you could see that Jota was actually telling Szoboszlai and Diaz to go behind him, to go to that side. And Delete saw that. So how we did not read that, I don't know, but I think the team selection was wrong. But for the midfield, I could understand that nobody else could have done that job apart from Casemiro today. But yeah, I think majority of the blame should go to Tenant today.
Okay, do you agree to that? Though Daniel didn't touch the Rashford part. Okay, I want you to address the Rashford part. Do you think ETH is protecting him because of the criticism launched out at Rashford for the past few weeks since the beginning of the season?
Yeah, it's quite possible that ETH is trying to protect him. I think ETH has shown that he's quite a loyal manager to those that are loyal to him. Pardon me, or those that what's the word now? Those that are obedient to his rules and regulations. let me just put it that way. But then again, if I'm to speak about Marcus Rashford in particular, this might sound funny, but honestly, since it was made public that he broke up with his girlfriend, things haven't been going well for him, honestly. And it might sound funny, but honestly, sometimes players are superstitious and certain things will work well for them. So maybe he needs to get a new girlfriend. I don't know. Or maybe he needs to get back together with her. But I mean,
emotional breakdown.
honestly. But then aside that, I don't think Rashford has shown me any major sense of development since I saw him bust onto the scene in 2016. Marcus Rashford cannot tell me his best position on the pitch. Marcus Rashford cannot tell me where he feels he will wreak havoc the most. Under Van Gaal, if I'm not mistaken, or was it Van Gaal or Mourinho? It was Mourinho, actually. He broke into the scene and he started out as a striker, but we knew that at that time he wasn't ready, or rather, he didn't have the output of 20 goals per season. So Mourinho went ahead to bring in Ibrahimovic first of all, and then Lukaku came. Let's not forget that Rooney was still at the club at that point in time, so it was understandable. And then obviously the other qualities in a young Marcus at that time, he was someone who was very fast, and then we started seeing these skills over the years. However, with his builds and everything that he has together, I think if Marcus Rashford focused and said he wanted to be a striker, he would be a brilliant striker. I think Marcus suffers from the same thing that Gabriel Jesus suffers from, which is the fact that, they find it difficult to be stationary in the middle of the pitch. And both players feel like, if they don't get a hold of the ball, if they don't touch the ball, they somehow feel frustrated and they wander around to want to touch the ball. So for Marcus Rashford, outrightly, he has been moved to being a winger. Even for England, he has been played as a left winger for a good number of years right now. But however, he still doesn't have a definitive position on the field. Because even as a winger, sometimes when he's lacking confidence, he doesn't take on his men. There are issues of decision making as well, knowing when to pass at the right time, knowing when to go for goal. Sometimes when he's clear on goal, the technique he decides to use to finish off chances sometimes can be questioned. So for me, it's a worry. And I do feel like if Marcus was under, maybe if Ole was still around, maybe if Mourinho was still around, I think we'll be seeing a much better Marcus Rashford, in my own opinion. So, and honestly, I allude with Daniel. I think it should have been Garnacho and Amad Diallo starting the game. I think Rashford, honestly, sometimes is much more of an impact player coming from the bench. And yeah, definitely in terms of how United lost today, I allude with Daniel as well. I think ETH had the major blame, but I won't take anything away from the fact that, first of all, I think Casemiro's career in the Premier League is done, and they still don't have
Those
a
were
focal point
those
of
were
attack.
two horrendous errors, man.
Of
Two
course,
costly
of course.
errors. Yep.
Of course, and it led to goal. Also, one thing I find very, very weird with ETH is the fact that he conveniently always makes substitutions regarding the centre backs. I don't know why you feel so comfortable messing up centre back pairings.
Three
I
things
do
you know.
understand that Delete didn't have so much of a preseason, and you're trying to get him up to match fitness, but at the expense of the team, that makes no sense to me. Yes, I do agree with Daniel. The first goal that Brighton scored against Man United last week, yes, Maguire could have done much better, but then again, he was still the best defender on the pitch. I mean, there's a reason why Maguire has been called to the England side consistently, even though, club side hasn't really done him well. So I think ETH needs to be a bit more realistic and stick to certain principles that help the team. Yeah.
Yeah. To touch
Chumamaka,
on the
your
Rashford
take.
thing.
Okay. You want to say something, Daniel?
Yeah, just quickly on the Rashford situation, really. I really think that guy has a clause on his contract about him playing every game or something, because I don't think a sane manager will start that guy from what happened last season to now and a very important game, like what we are saying. Because today, you're not closing down your man, you're not going into tackles. I can understand the player having a bad game, similar to Martinelli of Arsenal. Martinelli can be awful going forward, but defensively, you see him putting his leg out, you see him going in for tackles. You should see that from a player that is having a bad spell. But for Rashford, you can't say that really. He just walks on the pitch. You just see him, this like a lackadaisical attitude. I was watching this match with one of my guys, and it was like, this guy is not putting his body in the game. He's not trying to nibble anybody. He's not trying to do anything. So I think something is wrong with him, and it needs to be addressed quickly.
Chumamaka, just for you to your take on the Rashford ish. I know if Damini is seeing this video, watching us now, or watching the recorded version, Damini will say he's on this Rashford issue again. But I'm not just picking up on Rashford. It's glaring because as one of the oldest player in the team, you should be able to earn your corn and do a lot for the team. It's just 3 games into the season. He can still buckle his laces up, tighten his belt, like we say in this part of the world, and do better. Chumamaka, your take on Rashford while we move into the next topic.
Well, I really don't have so much to say in that regard regarding the Rashford issue. All I see with the Rashford thing is he, as Okwe said earlier, regarding losing his girlfriend and the likes, he needs probably he's emotionally down and the likes. I'm just creating excuses for him. Then the second part again is the fact that I believe that he's one of ETH's loyal guys. So I feel ETH is just paying back the loyalty by giving him more game time to see if he's going to pick up that form that he dropped. But if he's going to be this way, like he did last season, he has come in this season to start up like this. I'm sorry, he would just cause more problem. He will be much more of a disaster than a solution to Manchester United as it stands. They've let go of Sancho. They have Garnacho there. They have Amadou Diallo there. I don't know who else is their winger that you can say is that effective. I don't want to call Anthony because Anthony is like Rashford too. So I don't know. I feel ETH is doing everything within his power to make Rashford get back his form. But Rashford is having the same kind of problem that Modric is having. You have good runs on ball, but at the end you don't know how to make the right decisions when it's time to let go of the ball. So things like that. I feel with time, I don't want to rule out the Rashford thing. With time, I want to believe that he's going to pick back that form. All he needs is constant playing time, and I believe we'll get, if not 100% best of Rashford, we'll get at least like 50-60% of the Rashford we used to know. I'm not saying he was going to give us the whole, but I believe with game time, yes, let him fumble now. It's better he fumbles first 10 games of the season than to start fumbling from the second half of the season. So let him fumble now and pick up himself. I believe, yeah, he will do better. And again, to Casemiro, I don't want to agree with you that Casemiro's time in the EPL is over. That guy still has so much to offer. All he needs is somebody to work with, and United lacks that in the midfield. So I feel the workload for him in his position is what is costing him these unnecessary mistakes. We saw Casemiro for how many years in Real Madrid? We know that when Casemiro is doing the dirty job, there's a cruise to cover up. But in this case, United is pouring the whole burden of the defensive midfield on his head. Others are attack-minded. He's doing defense-minded player. Nobody there to work with him. So Casemiro still has 1 or 2 seasons in the EPL, but he needs somebody to work with that will have a good understanding in that midfield. United defense is a mess. I know that it's a mess. Casemiro cannot do much when you have a disaster of a defense. So that's my take on that.
Well, it's nice one.
Sorry,
it's a good take,
I have a question.
but it's unfortunate. Okay.
Yeah. So, Chiamaka, you said you need somebody. Can you give us like maybe an example of the somebody, like someone that you think would fit him in that midfield? I think you're muted.
You're muted.
I truthfully don't know. Casemiro has never been a defensive midfielder that's worked alone. I don't know if you understand. He has in all his successes in Real Madrid.
Yeah,
so you understand. In all the successes in Real Madrid, he always had one person that has a very good understanding about his gameplay with him. So if he's able to get that, I believe you will see a better part of Casemiro. Because in United, you don't have that. Let's call a speed. And let's not forget that his position is the last line of defense before the defenders. And when that is lacking, you don't expect your defenders who are managing themselves to perform miracles. It's not possible. So I believe if they get the right profile for him, if they get the right profile that can work with him, or somebody who's going to replace him, in your own opinion, well, I feel United will do better at the defense part of their game. Today's costly mistakes, I wouldn't say it's because of his age. No, he's too experienced.
It could have been avoided.
So
it could have been avoided.
Exactly, but I believe he needs somebody to work with. That there'll be a click. For now, I don't think they have that.
To be honest, he has ground eaters around him. Kobe today, I watched him and I was really impressed. The tackles he was going in, the challenges. I think that guy paired up with him really well. And I think those mistakes he made were actually individual mistakes that even having somebody with you, he can't make those mistakes as well. He had McTominay with him in that same midfield. And McTominay is a ground eater as well. He runs everywhere. He goes for every ball. And he still didn't gel. I just think for Casemiro, I mean, if you look at his body language of the pitch as well, you just see him like, let me just go for that ball. Let me just try. Let me just do this. So there's this, I believe there's this carefree vibe coming from him on the pitch, because that pass that he made today for the first goal was so unnecessary that I was like, why did you do that? Because at that point, he did not need to do that at all. for an experienced player with the Champions League that he has. Now, just
Something would have cost it. I feel something would have cost it. You said the nonchalance, the carefree attitude of him playing on that pitch. Hold on. You know who Casemiro is. I need not tell you so much about him. You cannot be telling me of a Casemiro and talking of and putting McTominay in the same frame with him in the cast of midfield you're talking about. So even if McTominay runs the whole pitch, does not mean there's an understanding between him and Casemiro. I don't know if you understand. Now you talked about tackles that he ran into. If he had a guard with him, he will run into such tackles and have a Toni Kroos to cover up for him. But in this case, no. So I feel they should have a profile. Well, I don't know how good Ugarte will sound working with Casemiro. I don't know, because I don't see Casemiro as somebody who's always going to come from the bench, in my opinion, in that United squad. Except they have somebody to replace him, because now as it stands, he's a starter, and that wouldn't change anytime soon.
I think Ugarte comes to bench Casemiro. In my own
he comes
personal
to bench him,
opinion.
to be honest. He comes to bench him.
In my own
I
humble
think that would
opinion.
be a bad idea,
He's-
actually.
I don't know if you watched Ugarte
I think
against
that would be
Arsenal.
bad because when you take a look at the profile of the midfielders, you've got Ugarte, you've got Casemiro, you've got Kobe Mainoo, right? The problem with Kobe is that, number one, he struggles when it comes to body-to-body contact. So Kobe lacks a bit of upper body strength, and he relies on grappling with the ball on the ground. But when you take a look at Casemiro and Ugarte, they will actually complement each other well. Ugarte is quite complete in the fact that he's a combatant midfielder, and he's got the passes. He has those passes in his locker room. So while Casemiro can be going wild like he usually likes to do, disrupting play and whatnot, you have someone who has the work rate of maybe like an Amrabat or so, but then is more sound defensively in how he decides to recover the ball and his distribution of the ball. So if you take a look at it, when Luis Enrique saw that, Luis Enrique did not want Ugarte to go, but he wanted to go. And who did he replace him with? João Neves, someone who has that similar profile. You get so someone that can also sometimes be alone in the anchor of the midfield and still spread those passes for the team. So I actually think that it will be better. I mean, it's up to ETH at the end of the day. I don't rate him as a manager because I don't know. He's in another world of his own, honestly. But for me, it should be Casemiro and Ugarte, and then you have Kobe Mainoo making appearances from the bench. I don't think Kobe is ready to be an out-and-out starter in the Premier League. Yes, he's got the qualities. You see the potential is there, the talent is there and whatnot, but I think he still needs to be defined. He's very, very raw, and I think he needs a coach that will help him to be a complete midfielder. Learning from the likes of Casemiro and Eriksen will be good for him, but at the end of the day, I think he's still too young and there's some little flaws in his game that would actually affect United going forward. They're trying to make something meaningful out of the season.
ETH will have to grow a lot of balls to bench Kobe Mainoo. It's left for him to get the balance of that team with them signing Ugarte from PSG. And I would have loved us to have Manchester United fans here, to have their take. But Margaret couldn't join. I guess the network couldn't permit her because she hasn't joined back ever since she came in the first time. And Digbo, Tunde Fat Dog, wow, I thought you guys were going to come online today, so we'll have a talk, seeing how Liverpool trashed Manchester United. But it is what